What's going on, New Canoe Nation, boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen, Facebook, YouTube, listeners of the podcast a little bit later down the road. We appreciate you guys tuning in. As always, please go down, share this up. That's what I'm trying to do right now. Trying to tag my man Nicklaus in this post. Sorry we missed you guys last week. Life has been a little crazy, boys and girls. I had to go down and help one of our New Canoe dealers, Rocktown Adventures, set up their booth at the Chicagoland Fishing, Boat, and Travel Show. Thanks for everybody that stopped by the booth, said hello, gave some cool words of encouragement, how much they like the show and stuff like that. Hearing from all the good folks at New Canoe, and I had my my Unlimited there rigged out. People were geeking out on it. We got some new canoe owners, which was cool to see, and all that good stuff. So thank you everybody that came by. Tonight we got Nicklaus Stepp in the house. Guys, gals, drop in the chat where you're tuning in from, what kind of boat you're floating out of. We don't even care if it's not a new canoe. We're just glad you're here. We already got Roy Widgeon in the chat. Hello, sir. Mr. Brock Howell in the chat. What's up, brother? Hope you're well, man. Prayers and thoughts for my man Brock. They've been going through some family struggles there. Don't want to elaborate too much, but I've been thinking about you, brother. I hope you're doing good. Roy, I mean, get with us, bro. Get with us. But excited for a guest tonight. He's been in a kayak for 10 years. Dude ran a club for many years. Fishes multi-species, mainly bass, but he loves chasing some other fish that I think you guys will be curious about. I mean, sturgeon is one of them, just saying, who doesn't like sturgeon? But he does a whole slew of cool things in the kayak fishing space, in the fishing space in general. So excited to have him on. Had to reschedule with him because, like I said, a million miles a minute, and forgot I totally had a show to go set up last week. So Mike Archer, welcome, brother. Hope you're doing well. Mike's from Southwest Oklahoma, fishing from an Unlimited. So let's get the man of the hour, Mr. Nicklaus Stepp, and I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly because I forgot to ask you before we started.
Perfect, man. Perfect.
All right.
Usually I get Nicklaus or something,
Hey, man, a blind squirrel finds a nut once in a while.
How you doing, man?
Good, man. Welcome to the show. Thank you for taking time away from life and the family to sit down and chat a little kayak fishing with us tonight, man. Super excited to have you on, and we were chatting a little bit before the show started, and I'm interested in diving into your story and all that good stuff. So why don't you take us back 10 years ago? Like, how'd you get into kayak fishing?
Man, I grew up fishing with a worm and a bobber, the traditional setup when you're a kid, fishing with my dad on the river. I grew up in southern West Virginia, so I fished the Tug River and the Guyandotte River a lot with my dad and my brother. And, I kind of fell out of fishing as a kid. I played baseball, played a lot of sports in school. But once I graduated, I had to find something that kind of filled that void again, that I don't want to say that competitive void, but, because
Sure.
I didn't tournament fish much then. But, me and my buddies would go out and fish, wade fish or whatever, and have little, little bets on who would catch more fish.
Sure.
But I had a friend of mine that had a sit-inside kayak. I don't remember what kind it was. It was cheap, and he actually had two of them. So we would take him out to a couple of local ponds and fish a little bit. And I was terrible at fishing, and I fished with some of my buddies out of a John boat and all that. And but it wasn't till my early 20s, I think, I started trying to get better, and that's when I got introduced to those kayaks. And it's like, man, I kind of like this, being able to just drop in somewhere and fish,
Sure.
Not have to pull a trailer or anything like that, or a boat. We could pack these things down the bank, throw them in the river, fish a little ways, pull them back up out of the river. And, that kind of led into a little bit of my passion for kayak fishing. And then fast forward a couple years, I had a friend of mine that had a new canoe, and I didn't know what it was at the time. I was with a group called Appalachian Range Outdoors, and a buddy of mine with that group had a new canoe. He had an F12.
Nice.
What is this? Like I said, this is a few years later. And I was like, I'd like to have something like that. I didn't know what it was because it was so wide. I didn't know they made a kayak that wide. And so he let me take it.
A barge. Yeah. It's like a barge, bro, compared to what you were in.
Right. So, we all got together one July and had a float, a little float get together camp session on New River in West Virginia. And
nice.
I was like, man, seeing this guy go down some of these shoals.
Yeah.
I think at this time now I'm in some kind of, I still don't remember what kind it was, but it was still sitting inside. But I seen this guy go down some of these shoals and not even budge. And he's just casting. And when I hit these shoals, I'm like, oh my God, what's going on? I'm going to flip. And we got done with our first float of that day. And I was like, man, I got to know what kind of kayak that is. I've got to get one. And they told me it was an F12. I'm pretty sure that's what that was at the time. I was like, man, I'm going to own one of those one day. That's my thing. And he was like, man, I could take this thing. I could kill a deer. I could throw it in it. Because he fished around. I forget what lake it was. And he would go around. He could kill a deer, throw it in the kayak, and paddle it across the lake. And I'm like, what?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And so it kind of fueled my interest in new canoe.
Sure.
And now still didn't know anything about the company or anything like that. But a few years ago, I went up to Strictly Selling Kayak, who actually I support now. It's my shop is Strictly Selling Kayak.
Nice.
And I bought an F10, long before I was Team New Canoe. And
sure,
man, I placed well in some tournaments. People were amazed that I could stand up in this thing and fish. I had a bow mount motor on it, and so I could just stand and fish like a bass boat. I'm not a big guy. I'm 5'10", 185 pounds, and I'm standing, walking on an F10, casting and just cruising up and down the bank. And I don't want to get too far ahead of myself, but just my realm into the kayak scene.
You're good.
Then I went from that, to the Unlimited, which is just a remarkable boat. And I tell everybody that whether I was Team New Canoe or not, man, I love the kayaks. I love the kayaks before, and I love them, in the future. Whatever happens, man, these are good boats, and they are definitely workhorses in the kayak scene.
I could definitely relate to how you would have been a little scared floating on that New River. The only time I've been on the New River was on a whitewater rafting trip, and it still blows my mind that guys are kayak fishing that. Then again, that was many, many moons ago, right? I was just a young buck, so it's been many years since I've been back there. But that whole West Virginia area, man, just absolutely beautiful. And it's
sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say it's an area I have on my bucket list to go back and visit.
Well, my two best smallmouth have come out of New River, and I'm excited to see the Hobie go there this year.
Okay.
I've not fished a Hobie yet. And
sure.
You know what? I've got a little experience here. So
yeah.
Fishing that. So
no, it'll be interesting, man. I know that's everybody knows Jody Queen, and that's like his backyard, basically, So it'll be super interesting to see one of the big trails be there this year, Hobie, and what ends up being caught, man. Because I mean, I've seen photos, and everybody's heard the stories about the giant smallmouth that live in the New River.
Yeah, oh, definitely, man. It's a great smallmouth fishery. A lot of muskie in there too, and me being a multi-species angler, I love fishing, especially the section where Greenbrier flows into it. There's a lot of muskie in that section, right there in Hinton, West Virginia. And
okay,
as you said, it can be a rough river if you don't know where you're at exactly. I mean, not far down, from Hinton, you have Brooks Falls, and then of course Sandstone and all that. You just got to really watch. If you don't know that river, it can be very dangerous.
Where is that famous bridge where everybody like bungee jumps off and stuff? Like, is that the Golly Bridge or something like that?
To tell you exactly where it's at, I don't know. I've been across it a bunch, but
All right. All right.
I live a good ways away from there. So.
Okay. That's where I was. That's where I was when I was
Okay.
there. And I know the New and the Golly River are kind of side by side there, or they intersect somewhere over there or something. But no, it's cool, man. It'll be interesting to see how that tournament turns out. I mean, predictions. All right, let's put you on the spot. Predictions. What it's going to take to win that event.
Uh, I mean, it's a river that can easily produce 90 inches, in a day.
Okay. All
So,
right. All right.
depending, like guys like Jody Queen who can fish it and fish it well, I think you could easily see close to, you know, 200 inches maybe. It's
For
it's,
2 days.
hard.
Yeah.
It's hard to do. It's hard to do. I mean,
Yeah.
you seen it on Chick last year, but it's hard to do. But who knows? Who knows? It's fishing, right?
Yeah. Right. Yeah. They don't call it catching. There's a reason why it's called fishing, right?
Right.
Roy said New River Gorge. I think that's correct.
Yep.
I think it's New River Gorge. Yeah.
Yep.
So thank you, sir. Thank you. But yeah, no, it's interesting, man. So what kind of got you involved in the multi-species, and then maybe just run us through like the species you actually like actively chase when you're not chasing bass?
Yeah. So, back in my early 20s, that's all I did was bass fish. I might go to like a pay lake every now and then just to hang out with some of my buddies. I'm not a cat fisherman. That's the one thing I don't really fish for.
Okay.
That I'm going to try to this year. I just never got into it that well.
Sure.
Probably because I was bad at it the few times that I did try. But, excuse me. But I bass fished mostly, in my I guess, younger years of starting to get better, and it's still probably my main thing.
Okay.
But a few years ago, I got hurt. I used to live in Central Kentucky, and I got hurt. I tore my bicep at work, and then I had some nerve issues, some infection in my arm. I had to have multiple surgeries.
Oh, Jesus.
So I was to go fun fish was okay, but if I was, how tournaments are, you're casting,
Yeah.
I tried a couple times. I think it was BKBF was a trail in Kentucky, and man, after like halfway through the second event, I was like, "There's no way I can do this."
Yeah.
I placed fourth in the first one, but I was really having to slow down how I was fishing because it was just killing me. So my second event, I quit about halfway through. It was like I'm done. My arm's hurting. It was just a long recovery. But to go out and fun fish, I could do that. I could cast, hang out, relax, no pressure. And I had a friend of mine, Chris Mann, who crappie fished, and I became friends with him. And I said, "Man, I'm gonna get into crappie fishing maybe." So I would just go out local lakes and just start fishing for crappie. I'd watch YouTube, Richard Jean, the fishing machine.
Sure.
Trying to learn about crappie, and then had Chris on my podcast a couple of times, and had some buddies that like to white bass fish, and all this has happened within the last, 4 years of my
Sure.
life. I've really started being like a multi-species angler, I guess you could say.
Which is cool.
Yeah, I mean, I love it. And so I had some buddies that white bass fish, hey man, you got to get to run in March, mid-April,
Yeah.
it's a hot time. And started learning a lot about those. And so then sturgeon, the big thing was sturgeon. I've got a friend of mine that's a biologist with Department of Fish and Wildlife here in Kentucky. Learned about sturgeon. Great place to fish for them. It's no secret. Wolf Creek Dam, Lake Cumberland.
Okay. Yeah.
All you need is a flat sinker, 2-3 ounce, and a swivel to a hook and a night crawler. Like they love night crawlers. That's all you need.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah, nothing special. And you can go down there, fish from the bank. Depending on the generations, how the output is, you're able to fish from the bank. If not, if the current's not too bad, you can take a kayak up near the dam, anchor off or spot lock,
Sure.
and fish for them. And, I got into doing that. I think the first time I went down, me and two buddies, we caught 9 in one day.
Oh.
with sturgeon.
Jesus.
And I'm telling you right now, man, you'll get me rambling. You talk about fishing, I'll talk forever. But dude, sturgeon is one of my favorite fish to catch. They fight so hard, especially when they get close to you.
Yeah.
It's a different animal.
So what's the longest sturgeon you've ever caught?
Just under 5 feet.
Okay.
Yeah, just a couple inches from being 5 feet.
That's a healthy fish.
Yeah. There's not a lot caught that long at Wolf Creek Dam.
Okay.
I've got buddies that have seen some bigger ones. I guess there's a couple different species there. I know there's a shovel nose and there's a lake sturgeon. The lake sturgeon get bigger. I think in general, lake sturgeon get close to 8 feet, but it might be 6 or 8 feet. But they're the bigger of the two species.
Sure.
So, usually your typical sturgeon down there is between 30 and 40, 45. And, every now and then you'll hit over 50, 55,
That's crazy.
And, they fight so hard, man. They hit the ground, they get in those rocks, and they just don't want to come up. And
right.
You can't move them till they're ready to move.
Yeah. My good friend Jay Randall, he and my other good friend Steve Carroll. Steve Carroll's out in Idaho, and they call him Sturgeon Steve. And he chases them on the Snake River, and there's I guess you can call it a viral photo of a sturgeon tail dancing out of the water next to him on a kayak.
I've seen that.
And Jay was out there, and I was supposed to go, and he caught a 6-footer, and I'm like, dude, I can't even imagine catching a 6-foot long fish, let alone 5 foot. You know what I mean? Like, and not only that, but those fish are like dinosaurs, right? They're totally different, than anything else.
Years old, man, so old. And if you ever hold one, they're solid muscle. I mean, they're absolute muscle.
We got a comment in the chat we got to address from our good friend Patrick Randolph, and he said, first of all, Nick is the only guy I know who has seen Bigfoot.
I'm gonna kill him.
So I think we got to elaborate on where you saw Bigfoot and how this all went down, because I know my man Patrick Randolph don't mess around.
So yeah, all right. I hope you're ready for this story. So
we're ready, man. We're ready.
I'll say the quick version of this story. So I'm fishing New River, of all places, New River, and I'm floating down the river, and I see this black thing in the water a couple 100 yards downstream. And initially I think a bear. So I'm running a drag chain at the time.
Sure.
And I just, had paracording a drag chain to a little cleat. So I'm unraveling this thing and trying to anchor off or slow down. And then as I get closer, I realize that, no, I don't think that's a bear. I'm about 50 yards away. And I'm like, that's a person, but it's awful dark. And as I go to float by, man, I'm going to kill him. Why is he making me tell this story? As I go to float by, this guy, I realize it's a guy, and he's in the water, and he's the hairiest man I've ever seen in my life. And I definitely keep this PG, but he stands up and he's naked. And I don't know what to do. Like, he's covered in hair. And I look, and there's no kayak. Listen, there's I'm gonna kill him.
Only Patrick would bring this up on a live show.
Right. So there's no kayak, there's no fishing gear, there's no clothes. This guy just walks to the bank and starts scaling a rock cliff and just starts walking, like going away. And I'm dumbfounded. I'm like, I don't know. So I told Patrick, I said, I don't know, unless it's like one of those. Well, I heard that there are people that live around that area that are like naturalists or something.
Sure.
So maybe it's one of them. I don't know. I don't know. It's just.
It was Bigfoot, bro. Let's stick with Bigfoot.
Dude, definitely. Yeah.
I'm sorry, man. I totally threw you off track, but Patrick dropped that in the chat. We had to address that.
It could have been Bigfoot. That's all I'll say. It was an experience.
Oh, that's hilarious. A bunch of guys are dropping in the chat. Sturgeon is a bucket list fish. Mike Archer, Roy Widgeon, all that stuff.
Oh man,
Patrick says, nah, there's not naturalists, just West Virginians.
definitely. I
Mike
would
Archer says, this is the best episode of Unlimited ever. So,
Well, I told Patrick I have a friend of mine. I'll drop his name because he doesn't care, and I like to make fun of him for it. His name's Cody Dickerson,
okay.
and he says he can't poop unless he's naked. So I don't know if it was like a guy that stopped on the road and had to run down and do his thing.
Yeah, do his thing.
I have no idea. That's as far as I'll go in this. Keep it PG, but man.
Oh, that's great stuff, man. Great stuff. Great stuff.
So.
Well, getting back to the kayak fishing until Patrick sidetracks us again, but so you used to run Bluegrass State Kayak, is that right? Bluegrass State Kayak Anglers?
I did for 1 year. So
okay.
AJ McQuarter, we all know who he is.
Yeah.
He used to run Bluegrass Kayak Anglers, and man, it was the talked about thing. You know, it was a great trail here in Kentucky. I won't elaborate much on that, but the trail kind of went idle. You know, due to some things. I think he moved off or something, and so there was like BKBF stepped up for a couple of years. There was another trail or something, and then BKBF was going to be no more, and last year Kentucky was going to be left without a trail. And I was like, you know, I've been in this scene for a long time. I don't know much about it, but I had a good group of guys behind me. Jay Wallen, Kyler Branham, Paul Averill, Adam Shepard. Those 4 guys, man, are just a realm of knowledge that can absolutely run a trail. There's nothing I did. I was just the face of the thing, man. These guys were the brains of it, and I give them full credit.
Nice.
But we brought BKA, Bluegrass Kayak Anglers, back to life last year, and averaged over 50 guys an event. We did so many good things, giveaways, and dude, I'm telling you, I was humbled by that experience. You know, I've been on the fishing side of it,
right,
but never the TD side of it, and so those guys, helped coach me, and we all just shot in, information and ideas off each other, and I'll be happy to say that Kyler Branham has now, I passed that torch to him. I had to move to Eastern Kentucky and was unable to run it, and he's best fit for it. Him and Jay are doing a really good job with it this year.
That's cool.
I'm still on the board, but I don't have as much hands on at all with it. But him and Jay Wallen are killing it. So.
No, that's super cool, man. Super, super cool. And it's, let's go back on that a little bit, because I think sometimes guys, especially tournament guys, don't realize the amount of work and effort it goes into running an event. And I had that eye-opening experience the past couple of years, because we do a big event down on Dale Hollow every year. And man, I remember just running around and just making sure everything was set, because you want that to run smooth for all the guys, because I've been a competitor, you know what I mean? Yeah. So I mean, what do you think the biggest thing that the guys fishing the event miss or don't understand as much on the back end of things, you know what I mean, if that makes sense?
I think they don't understand the time that goes into it. And I don't say that derogatory.
Sure.
I had so many guys tell me at the end of the season, how thankful they were that I was able, or that I took it upon myself, to sacrifice a lot of time for that trail. The thing I didn't realize either was just how much work goes into it. Now, and I don't say this derogatory either. Anybody can throw a few events together, use PayPal, whatever, and just get by with something for a year.
Sure.
But, I had this idea that I wanted to do it right. I wanted it to be a legit trail. I wanted us to have giveaways, have, a kayak to give away, a new canoe. We gave away a new canoe unlimited at the end of the season.
Nice.
Gracious thanks to New Canoe for that. And Kayaks and More was a shop that gave it, worked together to give us that. So that was awesome. But, it was humbling and a wild experience, to say the least, to realize how much time I was going to have to put into this thing to make it what I wanted to make it. And I had, like I said, I can't say it enough, had a great team behind me.
That's awesome, dude. That's
Yeah,
awesome.
there's a lot of time that goes into it, and have grace for your tournament director, please.
Yeah. No, and that's why I bring that question up, because anytime I've heard somebody complaining about an event, and it's usually a very minuscule thing, and it's like, look, man, I tell you what, go volunteer for a year, or even just an event or two, from start to finish. And I'm not talking like, oh, just show up the day of an event. I'm talking like all the back end work and everything like that.
Yep.
And I think people come to respect their tournament directors a little bit more.
Oh yeah, definitely, definitely, and a lot
Uh,
of tough
you
choices you have to make too.
you got a fan in here. He says Jeremy Hanakan or Hanakan. I'm sorry if I'm horrible at last name, guys. You guys know that. But he says Nick sells himself short, but it was the best trail I have ever fished so far. There
Awesome,
you go, man.
awesome.
So let
Thank
me
you.
know when you're throwing an event together. I'm gonna have to come fishing now.
Definitely. Well, Bluegrass Kayak Anglers, man. Like I said, it's a great growing trail. I don't want to plug it too much here, but if you're in or around Kentucky and you're looking for a trail where you can have fun, we got guys that fish, the Hobie, they fish the national scene, and we got guys that are just new to it. We had almost 20 guys that had never fished the kayak scene before last year that fished it.
That's
So
cool.
we're growing, and it's an awesome trail. Be part of it.
Well, and that's important, right? Like seeing all the new anglers come in and get into the mix and what they're learning and taking home from it. It's cool, man. It's cool to see the new blood come into the sport and
Yeah.
fall in love with that tournament scene. I always get that, like, what is it about kayak tournaments that you like? And I always say it's the brotherhood, the camaraderie, things like that, and it's hard to describe what that's like without like experiencing it for yourself.
Yeah. And I will say this also. Um, I cut my teeth in the tournament scene fishing KBF monthlies because I was scared to death to fish in person tournaments.
Sure.
I was, I'm wasn't that good. Still not that good now. I'll just act like it now. But
Yeah.
I would fish KBF monthlies and would place, middle of the pack. Sometimes I'd get a top 10 or top 15. But we wanted to bring a trail that everybody could feel welcome and compete. And regardless of what happens, whether you zero, you're still part of the club. You know,
Yeah.
I think that's really important. All these new guys coming into it, you can't expect to go in here and kick tail and take names. Unless you're Jeff Stewart, a good buddy of mine. He's won an event or two, and it was his first year last year.
That's
So
cool.
shout out to him. But he's a good angler. But it's
Nice.
very very rare that you come into a scene and just start kicking tail. And I tell everybody, take your time with it. Don't expect to just go all out, full speed. Have fun, get your feet wet, come out, fish an event, see if you like it. And, we got guys, all of our guys are nice. They'll answer any questions you got, help you out on the water. And like you said, the camaraderie of the kayak scene is just, it's unlike anything else. I've never fished a tournament where I've had beef with somebody. I'm sure it happens, but you see it all the time. Guys struggling, guys, maybe not doing well, or just meeting people at ramps. Hey man, this is working for me. Try
Yeah.
this, whatever. And it's awesome to see that.
I totally agree. Totally agree. And that's the thing too, right? Like we all know guys that, they started in a cheap kayak, showed up to an event and kicked everybody's butt with like decked out kayaks, you know what I mean? And nobody looked down or frowned upon those guys, because they weren't in this big expensive boat. So I always throw that out there too. But Patrick brought up a great point too. He said local trail events are important to the industry. It builds new customers and brings people to the outdoors. Couldn't agree more.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So I know you said you didn't really want to touch on it, but we got to bring it up, man, because you mentioned podcasts, and I'm a podcast geek, So like, what's the name of your podcast, and what's it about, and where can people find it?
So my podcast is called The Evolving Angler.
Okay.
And I start. It's on Apple, Spotify, Google Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Pandora. It's on about everything. If you want to listen to it, check it out. I don't do video yet. It's just audio. But man, I started this thing. I love talking fishing. I could have a podcast with you for 7 hours and probably still have a lot of content to talk about. That's just how I
Oh,
am.
for sure. Yeah,
I
yeah, yeah.
love talking fishing, and as I was getting better and fishing for multiple species, I thought, man, it'd be awesome to kind of start a podcast and talk about all this stuff that I'm learning, and maybe help others learn. And so I kicked around the idea for a little bit, the evolving angler. One day I was fishing Elkhorn Creek in Georgetown, where I used to live, and there was some guys belittling I think he was like 14 or 15 year old kid for fishing with live bait. You're never going to get any better if you don't fish with soft plastics, or you shouldn't be doing that. That's for losers, and like the things that were coming out of these guys' mouth was just terrible. And I was on my kayak, so I went over to the bank, and those guys had left, and I just went up and encouraged the kid. And this is not to toot my own horn; it's just I
Yeah.
felt like I needed to talk to him,
Right.
and I gave him, all I had was artificial baits, because I didn't use live bait for bass, but I don't knock
Sure.
somebody that does. Everybody's got their own flavor to
Right.
fish.
Right.
And so I talked to him a minute, gave him some baits, showed him how to use it. It was a Ned rig, and I gave him a spinner bait and a crankbait. And I was like, hey, man, these will catch fish. This is how you fish them. And he was happy. He had like 4 split shots next to a hook that was like super big and a little tiny
Sure.
night crawler on it. So
Yeah.
I knew much, but I gave him a little nugget or two, and wished him well. And I left him thinking, all right, I'm going to start this thing. I don't know if he listens to podcasts, but there's a lot of people out there that don't know much about fishing. I don't know much about fishing, but I'm learning. I want to help others learn. So I started it, with a multi-species podcast, and I covered crappie, sturgeon, muskie. And, here lately, the last, almost year, I've been a little bit hit and miss with some episodes just because of my work schedule.
Sure.
But that is changing. So I will be pumping out episodes pretty frequently from now on. But
Nice.
it was just a rough time of my life, moving, work changing, different jobs, and it's just a little bit of a rough patch. But I've got a great guys behind me that help me co-host, and so
That's
we
awesome.
try to cover the Bluegrass Kayak Anglers Trail and a lot of different species, just to help people grow and learn, as anglers.
That's cool, man. We got such similar stories, man. Because I got into kayak fishing in 2018, and we were like, like we struggled to find some, like solid information and things like that, like on how to get in it. And we started paddling fin, right, and then it's kind of turned into this whole thing, and now I'm here.
Yeah.
So, but it's cool, man. That educational aspect, dude. It's awesome, man. And I'm sure you've experienced this too. Like you get a message, hey, bro, just listen to your podcast. Took it out, tried it on the water, and I had some success, dude. And that's super rewarding, right? Like it feels like mission accomplished for sure.
Very, very.
So,
I've got some hate mail too, which is kind of funny. But
you just ignore those. Those go straight into the garbage bin, dude. I don't waste my time with that. But Patrick says you make some sweet swim baits too. He said you're a pretty talented dude, and coming from Patrick Randolph, holy smokes. You must be making like the Rolls Royce of swim baits, bro.
Well, I wouldn't say that, but I do make them out of wood. I hand carve everything. And
that's cool.
I started making musky swim baits, and I'll give a shout out to my buddy Cameron Palowich. He's got a YouTube channel, The Salty Guggen. You have to check it out. He is my goal to be as a multi-species angler. He fishes for everything, saltwater, freshwater, and man, he's got a great
cool
channel. But I became friends with him and made a few baits. Threw him one, said, hey man, try it out, see if it works. And his first day he caught a 50 and a half inch muskie, and I was like, that's good validation, and so I gave a couple others to a couple guides, and they started catching muskie on them. They was like, hey man, we gotta have some of these. So here I am, as fast as I could carve, and work, I'm making like 7 a week.
Sure.
And I've sold a few out of the country. I guess that's kind of cool, but
that is cool, man.
I haven't made them in a while, but I actually just started back. I think it was like 2 weeks ago. I started carving them again, just toying around with them. So who knows? I might start making them full on again. Who knows?
Dude, I personally don't throw the big swim baits, but I know there's like this huge like cult following of like big swim baits. And I got a good friend, you may know him because he's deep into the big swim bait world, Richie Lockery over in Missouri.
I don't think
and
so.
I remember he let me camp in his backyard for a KBF event down on Table Rock, and he's showing me all these big swim baits, and he came up to me and handed me a box, and he's like, "Whatever you do, don't lose that. That's like $2,000." And I was like, "Dude, what the hell is wrong with you?" But
Yeah.
I mean, it's so cool, and I'm like, the more and more it's become popular, and guys have been talking to me about it, and I'm just like, all right, I need to just give in and be a part of it. So it's just like, yeah, I understand where you're coming from, but the fact that they're hand carved, dude, that's super cool, man. It takes some craftsmanship to do so, and have them work out to the point where guys are liking them and catching fish.
Well, they're hand carved and hand painted. I don't even have an airbrush, so they take me a while. But when I got into swim bait fishing, I bought a bull shad because I had a buddy who
Yeah.
had bull shads, and I was like, "Yeah, I'm gonna buy one." I took it out, and this was years ago. Being the idiot that I am, I had it on like 8 pound mono, and I went to chug it and just completely broke the line, and it went sailing. And
Sailing.
bottom, my first cast with my first bull shad, I lost it, and yeah, that was heartbreaking. But I learned a good lesson that day.
All right, Mike Archer says, serious question. Does Nicholas ever sleep? Podcast, tournament, director, baits,
you know,
work.
legitimately, I get 3.5 hours sleep a night.
Oh, jeez. You're as bad as I am, dude.
But I'm not tournament director this year, which is great.
Yeah. So
I mean,
now
I like it,
now
but
he's at 4.5 hours a night, right?
dude, I'm telling you, I need to get more sleep. But like I said, now the job I have helping build bridges and stuff, dude. We're working daylight to dark most of the days.
Yeah.
6 7 days a week. It's rough doing all that and this.
It's
Wild,
hard to
wild.
mix it all in, man.
Yeah,
I
for
get it.
sure,
I
for
get
sure.
it.
Yeah.
Well, man, we're winding down here, and I always end the show with this final question. It's always a fun one. We've gotten many different answers in it, but you got a Frontier 12. It's rigged up tandem. You can go fishing with anyone dead or alive for a day. Who's it going to be?
Anyone dead or alive? Man, I'd have to say my brother
Okay.
because, and I know that's probably not a popular answer as somebody's family, but I look up to my brother. He doesn't fish much, but I moved off to Central Kentucky for several years, and moving back here to Eastern Kentucky, being able to hang out with him and just be brothers again. We fished a few times together, man, and it brought back so many memories as when we were kids fishing with our dad. My dad can't get around that good. He walks with a limp now, so he can't really do much. And so me and my brother, we try to hang out when we can. He's full time pastor, and I'm full time with a road crew. And but when we can, we try to get together and hang out. And man, I tell you, I cherish the moments with my family, and especially my brother. Somebody I look up to.
It's
If I could,
beautiful.
if I could, go fishing with him any chance I get, man, I love it.
I love it. I love it. That's the I think that's the first brother episode or brother answer out of 83 episodes, dude.
Oh,
Or heard a lot of grandpas, dad, uncle,
yeah,
brother. That's cool, and I respect that 100%.
yeah,
100%.
cool.
That's super cool, man. Brother, I'm going to give you a chance to plug your social medias, your podcast again, all that stuff, where people can go follow you, pay attention to what you're doing, maybe pick up some of these hand carved swim baits and things like that. I only take a 5% commission on that. So we're good there. No, I'm kidding. I'm totally kidding. But plug all your stuff, man, so people can come follow you and maybe pick up some baits and stuff.
All right. I guess I'm called the Evolving Angler. Instagram at the underscore evolving underscore angler. Or you just type in the Evolving Angler, you'll find me. The Evolving Angler podcast is available wherever you listen: Apple, Spotify, Google Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Pandora, etc., etc. I do want to give a shout out to my shop, Strictly Selling Kayak, out of Cincinnati again. That's a great shop, great family ran business that will absolutely go uh, the full mile for you and do whatever they can to help you out. Um, then of course NuCanoe, can't thank them enough. Being Team New Canoe, they really support their team, and that's something I've had guys, not to mention other kayak companies, but guys that just maybe on different teams and said, "Man, I love what New Canoe does for you guys. It's remarkable." And one other guy I got to give a shout out to. I'm not sponsored by, but David Lindsay with Lindsay Custom Lures. I've caught a ton of bass on his baits, and man, he just makes absolute fire soft plastics and stuff. Not sponsored by the guy. He owes me nothing. I owe him nothing. But dude, if you guys can check him out, Lindsay's Custom Lures on Facebook. David Lindsay, man, he makes some absolute fire stuff.
Nice.
But yeah, that's basically it. The Evolving Angler Podcast. You can find me on Facebook, Nicklaus Stepp, the Evolving Angler Podcast on Facebook, and the Evolving Angler on Instagram.
Love it, man. Well, I appreciate you taking the time tonight, man, to share your story and some knowledge, and probably the best story ever on an unlimited podcast thus far pertaining to Bigfoot. Thank you, Patrick Randolph. I appreciate you. I'm gonna PayPal you $20 for that one now.
Hey, I'm a believer now. Bigfoot's real. Bigfoot's real.
Oh, I love it, man. I appreciate you, dude. It's been great to sit down and chat with you.
Yes, sir.
Guys, gals, listening, watching, go follow Nicklaus. Check him out. Check out his podcast. I didn't know you were Evolving Angler, and I've actually listened to a few of your episodes, dude. Good stuff. So,
no.
But I'm always looking for new content to listen to, man, because I can't listen to myself talk. So, but I appreciate it, dude. Guys, gals, we're here every Tuesday night, 7 Central, 8 Eastern, 5 o'clock out on the West Coast. We're here talking to Team New Canoe members like Nicklaus. Sometimes we have our New Canoe dealers on, or if we got new products or updates or things like that coming out, we always talk about that here as well. Good luck to Jake Angulas and Derek Brundle down at the 10. We checked in with Jake briefly this afternoon. We're going to do the same thing tomorrow with Derek from the water tomorrow around 12 o'clock Central, noon, 1 o'clock out on the East Coast. See how it's going down there, get his take, see what he's doing, and all that good stuff. Nothing but the best of luck to all the competitors fishing in the 10, but we're favoring more towards our New Canoe guys. Sorry, guys, but we appreciate you guys. We'll see you all next week. As always, boys and girls, tight lines, smooth paddling. Peace.